Welcome everyone to the latest episode of The Paddock, where Nick Luck is at Centre Parks, Tom Stanley's skiing, Rishi alongside us, with our special guest this week, Mick Fitzgerald, friend and colleague at ITV and former rider. Fitzy, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
How are you?
I'm in good form, actually, yeah.
Ahead of the Grand National, which obviously for everyone in racing, we adore it and we're looking forward to it. And would it have provided you with your most famous day in the sport?
I think that's probably about right. To be honest, when I was growing up, I wanted to win a Gold Cup more than a National because I thought that was the race. But it was only when I won the National, I actually realised what a big deal it was. And like all the other stuff that you get after you win the National and, you know, I think, it gave me a day I will never, ever forget.
It's one of the most famous quotes in sport, your winning quote. Who did you say it to? Des?
Des Lynam, yeah.
Remind everyone of the quote.
Well, so I said to Des Lynam, who, and I have to, every time I say this, I have to almost contextualise and say why I said what I said. There was a steward's inquiry. It looked like I was going to lose the race in the steward's room. And I was basically shitting myself, thinking I'm going to become the first jockey ever to win the National and then lose it in the steward's room. And then they have you in, you watch all these videos, and then they make you stand outside and wait. Come back in, and they say the placings remain unaltered. Those words are like, whew. And then they say, right, off you go. So you get carted out in front of, and you meet Des Lynam. And now, for people of a certain age, Des Lynam is like the god of TV.
Yeah.
And I can remember standing in front of him and he said to me, Mick Fitzgerald, you've just won the Grand National. How do you feel? And I can remember looking up at him because he's quite a tall man. And I can remember thinking, you're actually much taller than I thought you'd be. And I said, Des, like he was like my best buddy. And I said, after that, even sex is an anticlimax.
Wow.
And I could see, like, obviously now we all work in TV, so you're wearing an earpiece and people are talking in your ear. Somebody must have said something because his eye just flickered like that. But I didn't even really notice. And I went off in a bit of a haze, really, after that. But it's the next day when you open up all the national newspapers and it says, better than sex. Suddenly you think, okay.
This is big.
Yeah.
Well, there are so many stories from your riding career, your life in TV as well, that we'll get through. So let's get stuck into it.
And like, honestly, I had no sleep.
The night before the National.
I get changed, come outside, it's empty and it's dark. I can suddenly thought, where's my dad? I thought, he's been here all day. He'd have been on the lash. How am I going to find him? Suddenly, I went around the corner and like he held his thumb up and he said, you did it.
We spoke about your love of the Grand National because it gave you that famous day. But do you almost resent it as well because it was the race that ultimately ended your career from an injury point of view?
Every time I walk through those gates, all I can remember is winning the race. They'll never be able to take that off me. I'd be lying if I said I don't think about what happened when I had my fall. I have to admit, when I was on the ground first, I was paralysed. I've never been afraid of anything. That moment I was afraid.
And it was 30 years ago when you won it. I mean, where does time go, firstly?
But I think old man's thing to say.
I know, but I feel like I remember Rough Quest like it was yesterday, growing up watching it.
I know, it's so hard to believe that, you know, you think, like I can remember thinking a person who was 50 is nearly dead, but actually now I'm in my 50s. So yeah, it just seems, like a lifetime ago almost. But at the same time, it's a memory that doesn't really fade because it was such a big day and a big occasion for me.
Yeah, you probably remember every frame of it.
I can remember an awful lot of that, and every time I talk about it, it honestly, like the emotions that you experience throughout the whole day, the build up, everything, it just all comes flooding back.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very special.
But when I was growing up, and I remember watching the Grand Nationals, not obviously taking part in it, but I remember watching those races just in complete awe and admiration of what Fitzy and the other jockeys were doing. And it's the race that really evoked all the kind of spirit of horse racing in me that obviously led me to do it as a career. Do you remember that era of Nationals?
I remember when I was a kid, I used to love finding horse racing films to watch. If you found a horse racing film to watch, it was gold dust because there weren't that many.
No.
I remember watching something called Casey's Shadow. It was about a quarter horse who had bad shins, for example, and he managed to win the quarter horse derby, and that was one of my favourite. He had a chestnut white blaze, and I wanted to have a horse like Casey's Shadow one day. Never happened. Watched a race thing called Run for the Roses. Obviously, I even watched things like National Velvet. I loved International Velvet with Tatum O'Neill. I mean, who wouldn't have loved that? But Champions.
Yeah.
I watched Champions, and I'd watched Aldeniti win the Grand National. I remember watching Champions, and I just watched
John
it.
Hurt.
Watched it on a loop.
Yeah.
And that actually spurred my love of the Grand National, watching Champions, and that story about Aldeniti, and obviously Bob Champion, and the fact that it was a miracle. It was a miracle.
Yeah.
And I kept watching the Grand National to find the next miraculous story, and there have been a fair few in the history of the race, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's magic. Like, even the silly little things, like, I can remember going to 3 out in the National on Rough Quest when he was cantering. And it's like you say, when you're watching, like, Red Rum winning the National, you're watching the old movies, and there was that car that used to drive alongside and used to film them. And I can remember, as I was landing over 3 out, I thought, I'm one of those horses. That's going to be, that car is actually filmed.
What, in the race you thought
In the
that?
race, like, honestly, in the race. And then I was like, wake up. You've got a job to do here. And it is like, it's little moments like that you remember stuff like that. It sounds silly and trivial, but, that's, sometimes you have to, your mind wanders and you've just got to, like, snap out of it.
And I always used to, when I was growing up, picture myself riding in the race. And when I was watching it, I mean, I shouldn't really admit this, I had a rocking horse in my garage and it was a grey horse, and I used to ride it like Sunny Bay, basically, thinking I was probably about 6. Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Could I pick the winner?
Yeah, but I was probably about 16 riding Sunny Bay. But anyway, but I always used to think, like, would you have those moments in a Grand National? Because it's over 4 miles, lots of fences. There's lots of time when you're riding a horse in the countryside, basically.
Yeah.
Would you have those moments where your mind wandered away from the job you had? Would you chat to the riders? Would you,
I didn't do a lot of chatting when I won the race. Maybe in subsequent races I may well have done, but and it's really weird. Like, people always ask you as a jockey, the crowd, and like even at Cheltenham, like, are you aware? I never heard the crowd.
really?
What, even in the finish?
No, never. Like, honestly, never.
Could you hear the commentator?
It was like, no. Like, totally zoned out. Like, it's almost like you're in a different...
Like a flow state.
Yeah, you are. Like, it's so away from what I'm experiencing. And like, I'm concentrating on the job I've got to do. And like, you talk about that riding Sunny Bay, going round. Like, I rode that National hundreds of times on the build up to the race because I knew what I had to do, the horses that might be in front of me, where I wanted to go. Like, I'd spoke to Andrew Waits and Terry Casey about the ride, and I said to them, they said, oh, what are you going to do? And I said, well, it'll be simple. I said, I'll just hunt round for the first circuit, get a feel and see how we go, and I will not take it up until halfway up the running.
Because he was a push-button ride, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, but he had this... The only thing is, if you push the button too soon, you got beat. Yeah. And I learned the hard way on him that way. I got beaten the better way at Ascot, got there a fraction too soon, got beaten him at even at Folkestone or at Wincanton one day. I got beaten him, got there too soon. You learn, and that's the great thing. I always say, even to my son now who rides, and the lads that I coach, it's very simple. You're not failing. You're learning on the job. And when you learn, you almost have to make the mistake. Yeah. Learn from it, bank it, put it to good use the next time.
It's interesting thinking back to that and watching that race again. So obviously Encore and Per, David Bridgewater. I remember I backed Encore and Per. I thought he was I'd backed him, in the weeks before the race. And I remember thinking that when David Bridgewater produced his amateur dramatics, it was going to help the horse because exactly that. I thought, Rough Quest is going to end up in front, and he might just stop, and that might come back and get him. So it's interesting to hear you say that after all these years. You were also thinking maybe that could have been an issue.
Yeah.
But when you say that it went to plan, I mean, we'll talk about the modification of the fences in the Grand National in 2026. We're on the eve of it now. But, I mean, I imagine that there are lots of races that do go to plan, but the Grand National, so, I mean, given the nature of it back then, it never really goes to plan, does it?
Well, no, but honestly, like, that's the naivety of youth. I honestly, and I don't mind saying it, I thought the horse was a certainty.
Really?
I really did. I honestly, it could not get beat in my mind.
Wow.
Just couldn't get beat. All I had to do was just not get there too soon and not do anything silly. And I can remember as we were going around, like I went to the first, went to the second, and he went to the third, which is the first big ditch. He landed over the third and he was just like that. He danced. And I was like, oh, I'm going to win the last one.
After the third?
After the third. Because he was so sure-footed. And when we went up past the stands with a circle to go, he was getting too handy because he was jumping so well and really enjoying it. And I was like, I'm going to have to run him into one here because I've got to stop him, because he was the sort of horse that once like you opened the tap, it was very hard to turn it off. So I had to run him into the second fence next time round. And he hit it and it knocked him back. And I went back and watched it the other day, and Jim McGrath said, and Rough Quest has dropped back. But like that was deliberate from me because I knew that I was getting too handy.
Was it harder to ride, therefore, a horse that you thought was a certainty rather than one that you felt had a chance but wasn't? I mean, what was easier? Did you, in your career?
Oh, listen, I'd rather ride the certainty every day of the week.
But which is easier to execute?
Oh, the certainty, surely.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because I sometimes think when it's that, AP going out to ride Unsinkable Boxer, that race at Cheltenham, if it's that certain and expected to win, the only thing you can do
is cock it up.
But isn't that like recency bias? So like if you're on a certainty and it doesn't win, then you're disappointed. But if you're on an outside and it outperforms, then you're just like, oh, that was...
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to tap into somebody who actually knows what it's like.
Oh, listen, I wanted to ride.
To me.
I know, but if I said to you, you can ride the horse that's a shorter price.
Of course.
You'd ride it every time.
Absolutely. I just meant like,
that
in
chance.
the pressure of executing it. If everyone is expecting, like, I know Fitzy's riding this, it should win. I don't, but as in the expectations, I suppose, is the thing.
Yeah, but look, I think, and it's only me, I can't talk about anybody else. I wanted that. I wanted the chance to ride a good horse. I wanted the chance to get it wrong. I'd rather have that than, I'd rather get it wrong than never get the chance. And for me, I was always hand up first every time. And I think that's something as a person that you've got to be. You've got to believe in yourself. Believe in your ability to get the job done.
It's amazing because even we've spoken 3 or 4 questions about Grand National, and there's 3 or 4 answers that are basically like microcosms of like life advice, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, learn from your mistakes, believe in yourself, be fearless, put your hand up. I mean, these are things that for us mere mortals who never were brave enough probably or good enough to ride in a Grand National, they are actually like life lessons, aren't they?
Oh yeah, big time, because you and the way I see it is, I wanted the chance. That's all I ever wanted all my life. I just wanted a chance.
So is this something that was instilled in you as a young person?
Yeah.
By yourself or by your parents or by others around?
Look, and that's the one thing. I was like so lucky when I was young. I wanted to leave school when I was 15. And my parents said, I was quite relatively bright in school, did really well on my exams. And I wanted to leave and become a jockey. And the school principal came out to see my parents and said, this guy is wasting an academic career because he can be a solicitor, he can be whatever he wants to be. Yeah. He's bright enough to do all that, go to university. And my dad and my mum both said, no, this is what he really wants to do. We've got to let him do it.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And
so good at
that's why, like, all I ever want to do as a parent is make my children proud of me, but also give them the guidance, but also put your arm around them and say, look, if that's what you really want to do, off you go. We'll be behind you 100%.
And both of you as parents probably know that that's not as easy as your parents made it look.
No, because you worry the pitfalls. What happens if I got injured early and then I lose the opportunity for an academic career? Yeah. But they were behind me 100%. And that's why when you have good days, it's important to be able to share them with the people around you that mean the most.
Wasn't that quite similar to you with your parents? Didn't they, in terms of a racing or TV career?
Well, my mum basically sort of, when I told her that I didn't want to follow my dad was a lawyer.
Yeah.
When I told her that I didn't want that, my dad was also, he's massively into racing, gambling, sport, and I love that. And that's all I was interested in. And when I eventually had the courage to tell them both that I didn't want to follow in my dad's footsteps, I didn't want to do...
Was that quite a big deal to actually raise up?
I put it off for years,
Did you?
telling them.
Really?
To the point where, I'd just finished doing 2 degrees just to hold them off to telling them, because I didn't have that courage. That's not me. And I basically waited for ages before I told them. And when I did tell them, I knew what was coming, because my mum, I remember, she did this thing where she washed her hands like Pontius Pilate did. And she said, do whatever you want, but like that. And my dad stayed silent because he kind of understood that this is his fault.
Yeah.
Because he'd taken me down that path. I got on very well with my dad, and that we shared that bond. But my mum wasn't quite like that. And then it took ages for her to come round. And then eventually she saw me struggling to get a job in racing, because that's what ultimately I wanted to. And I couldn't get a job, and then she took pity on me, and she made a call to a friend of hers to help me get in at the bottom level. And I did. But, it's a hard thing to do, to have that clarity and courage to go, this is what I want to do. And to then have the backing of those, because you can do it when you're young. You have to have the people around you to support you, because if you hadn't had your parents' support and you had to do it on your own, it'd have been 10 times as hard. And I was so scared that I would lose my parents' support that I put it off for as long as possible. Wow. So that was
the opposite to Fitzy's. Sorry,
yes.
I knew that was
courage. Yeah, but it's
different type.
Yeah, but with that, Doris, comes the delusion from me almost. And I look back on it now, and I just I honestly shake my head, because I was 15, thought I was going to be the next best thing. I was really light. When I had my very first ride, I was 6 stone 9. Wow. When I had my first ride, age 15, at Gorn Park, and I thought I was going to be a flat jockey then, because I was small. My parents were small, and then obviously grew and got too heavy to ride in the flat. No success in the flat, and I said, right, I'm going to have to go to England. And I can remember my dad brought me to the airport to Dublin, and it was one of the first Ryanair flights going to Luton, and it was 60 quid. And I
not much different now.
Well, no, it's not. It's not. But that was all I had, 60 quid. Wow. And my dad turned around, he had tears in his eyes. Honestly, I could see it now. My dad was hard as nails. So he turned around and he said to me, here you go, just in case it doesn't work.
Oh my.
And I looked at him, I shook my head, and I said, Dad, I don't want it. It's going to work. And that was it. And then I struggled for years. Like when you think that was 18, I rode 2 winners in my first season in the UK, and then went 18 months without a winner. And I thought the dream was over, but I just kept thinking, this is what and it's stupid. Honestly, foolhardy really, but I always thought this is what I was put on this earth to do. Yeah, I'm going to do it.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because I'm not a parent, you both are, but even hearing you talk about that moment with your dad, that one interaction, which your dad might, it might have just been a moment that he doesn't really resonate with, but it clearly does with you. The impact it has still these many years on, and therefore, when you were having Gold Cup success on Seymour Business, Grand National success. I watched the Rory McIlroy documentary yesterday, and how much his parents sacrificed for Rory to go on and become a Grand Slam winner. But we all hear it as fans. I want to thank my parents for everything they did. But in your case, when you crossed the line on the Grand National, it wouldn't surprise me if your brain went straight to your parents' support from a 15-year-old boy.
It didn't, but that day, so that whole
you were thinking about sex too.
Well, that whole week, I thought it'd be a really good idea, because I was riding the favourite in the National. I thought it'd be a really good idea to bring my dad over,
right,
and spend a bit of quality time with him. So we stayed in a twin room in Runcorn, and I thought, this will be lovely, like a bit of bonding time. But my dad loved to drink,
right.
So I was doing 10-7. I used to always have to sweat to, keep my weight in check. So I said to my dad, we had something to eat, and then I said to him, well, I'll leave you to it, Dad. I'm just going to go and have a sweat and, go through the races for tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be up in a minute. Right. Well, I went and had a sweat, still no sign of him. 3 hours later, still no sign of him. 4 hours later, he comes crashing in the door, right? And he's, you know, when someone's trying to be quiet and they're pissed,
Yeah.
right? He's making a terrible racket. He gets into bed. The minute he gets into bed, he falls asleep like that. And oh my God, he might only be small, but can he snore? And like, honestly, I had no sleep.
The night before the National?
No sleep the night before the National. I kept waking up and he was on, like the whole room was vibrating. So in the morning we get up and chatting away, and then we head off. And there was a guy called Mick Jordan, who was a friend of his from home in Wexford, that my dad met when we walked through the gates at Aintree. And I literally went one way and he went the other way. And I said to him, I said, I'll see you later. I said, so I'm riding the last. After the last, I'll meet you here where I dropped him. And he said, great. So off we go. So anyway, I ride in the race. Then you have to do like all the media and everything afterwards. It was madness and mayhem. So then I finished riding and I get changed, come outside, and like there's just litter everywhere. It's empty and it's dark. I can suddenly thought, where's my dad? I thought, he's been here all day. He'd have been on the lash. How am I going to find him?
So you never saw your dad after the Grand
No.
National? The immediate after? You didn't see? Wow.
Not at all.
Okay.
And then suddenly I went around the corner and there he was.
Waiting for you?
He was wandering towards me like this. And like he held his thumb up and he said, you did it.
No way.
And honestly, that moment is frozen in time for me. It's probably one of the most precious moments in my life that you remember forever, because it meant a lot to me, but it meant a lot to him. And being able to have him there was very special.
Yeah, it's making me emotional, to be honest.
Yeah, lovely. Like like my dad he's great. Like he really is.
Is he still around?
He's still around.
Oh,
yeah, he's still going strong. Yeah, great.
Still lost in Aintree.
Wow. and yeah, so the following year when we went back, when the bomb scare.
Well, this is a mad story, right?
Yeah, so the following year I was actually on the favourite again, Go Ballistic, and he had light. And I can remember I had actually won the Aintree hurdle on Bimsey, and then got changed to ride Go Ballistic in the National. Again, my dad was with me, because I thought at that stage he was a lucky charm. And then...
Was he snoring the night before?
Well, quite possibly. And then the race, so there was all this kerfuffle. I weighed out, handed the saddle over, and then next thing we come back in, I get told, you've got to leave. I'm like, how do you mean you've got to leave? And they said, there's been a serious threat to people's lives. I was like, surely not. And they said, no, there's a bomb scare. There's been a tip-off received. We have to evacuate the building. You cannot even get your cars, nothing, go. So I was basically dressed in my breeches and boots and grabbed my coat off, and we were basically escorted off the premises. And then it dawned on me, like there's like 60,000 people there. I thought, how on earth am I going to find my dad? Like no mobile phones. So we navigated off to different places, and we ended up going to a house. There was a lady called Edie Roach who is now in the Hall of Fame for what she did. Like the people of Liverpool opened their doors to all and so.
I mean, literally they did.
It was amazing. Like, and it would only happen in that city.
Yeah.
But so I can remember we went in there and we were like, oh, this is the end. That's no more racing, and that's it. Won't be no more national.
So there's you and other jockeys in this random lady's living room in Aintree.
Absolutely. So walk into this random lady's living room, said, oh, come in, have a cup of tea and sit down and a bit of cake and everything. And the place is rammed. Like, I mean, rammed. There's every little bit of space is taken with people from all walks of life and countries.
Amazing.
So anyway, I'm sat down, and anyway, in walks this lad serving the tea. Who is it? Only my dad. He's serving the tea.
You're joking.
I swear. He's like serving the tea.
And you had no idea he was there?
No, not a clue. Not a Scooby-Doo.
Wow.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
So then what? So you're now in a random lady's house,
Yeah.
Edie's house.
Yeah.
Your dad's making the tea. There are other jockeys with you.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Race goers as well.
Yeah, all sorts.
And you think Grand National's cancelled.
That's it, gone. But that won't be happening.
But you're in your riding. In your
riding gear, because I got no other gear.
So what do you do?
Got no other clothes. Well,
The course is closed because of the bomb scare.
so everybody is being evacuated from the area. So we, like everybody else, navigate to town.
In your riding gear.
In my riding gear. So we then hear that there's a chance that the race might be run on the Monday. So they've told us to hold, because obviously our cars are there and everything. And Sheila Lockhart, who owned Go Ballistic, she managed to get me a room in the Adelphi. But like there was my dad and there was a couple of others as well. And I can remember we actually just said, it won't be, the race won't be on, because it couldn't be run on a Sunday. And I thought, well, they're not going to run the National on a Monday. So we said, let's go. So we went into town, basically into the Adelphi. We went on the lash, basically. And I can remember being downstairs in the nightclub in the Adelphi, dancing like a lunatic with a load of all the other lads, all still in our jockey's gear. And yeah, just absolutely surreal. Then ended up going, obviously, to bed. Woke up the next day, we were allowed back to the racecourse to get our stuff. And as we got back to the racecourse, I saw Charles Barnett and he said, they're going to run the race tomorrow. And I went, what? And he said, yeah, they're going to run the race tomorrow. It's going to be a one-off. Right. And then suddenly I thought, what weight am I? Because I'd sweated quite a lot of weight off to ride at 10.4, I think, to ride Go Ballistic, which was my minimum anyway. And I can remember I got on the scales and I was like, oh my God.
The vodka Red Bulls were resting in there.
Well, if it was only vodka and Red Bull, I was fine. But I think it was probably all the other, it was lager and all sorts, I think, consumed. But I can remember I was like 9 or 10 pounds heavier.
Ouch.
And then it was a case of right back. I've now got to get myself in shape and ready to go and do this.
How much weight did you lose in 24 hours then?
Probably about 9 pounds, but that was normal. So at that time, like as a rider, your body is like a sponge, so it hangs on to whatever it can because it knows you're going to flush it out soon anyway. Because in those days I was a sweater, so basically I sweat every single day, and like AP's was the same. You know, you would basically, your body wouldn't act like a normal person's, like you wouldn't pee the same. You know, your body would just hang on to the liquid because it knows you're going to flush your system out a different way.
Is Edie still around?
She's still going, yeah.
Do you see her?
Yeah, I saw her when she was inducted into the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. We all saw her. Yeah. But an amazing lady, like really amazing. But that, I think, that could only have happened at Liverpool.
And that's the magic of the Grand National that I was sort of alluding to and watching it growing up. The city is incredible. The people, as we're hearing there, I know that you and the jockeys do a lot of work with Alder Hay and stuff, which is fantastic. I hope we haven't lost that with the Grand National, that touch of magic that it brings, even, you know, reminiscing on Rough Quest, Aldenite and things like that.
Yeah, it's a good question because it's been a subject that's come up quite a bit in the last few weeks, people talking about the Grand National and whether or not it's still as special as it was because the nature of the race has changed, and it has changed. You look at the quality of the horses lining up for the race and there was a little bit more, you know, the smaller stable had more of a chance back in the old days.
It was a bit more David versus Goliath.
And that has gone, I think.
Yeah, but don't you think, though, that the Grand National belongs to the people of Liverpool?
Yes.
Don't you think?
Without question.
Like, and I think that's what, in some ways, makes it, because it's their race.
Yeah.
And they see it very much as their chance to show off their city.
Yeah.
And that's why when you go there, you see people make such an effort to dress up, to look good. To them, it's a big deal.
I've said that I think other events, particularly the Derby, could take the example of the way Liverpool has embraced the Grand National. The Grand National has, you know, flourished and thrived as a consequence. I do feel like London, the connection between London and the Derby is not what it used to be. And I do feel that's an area that could be exploited a bit more, make it more of a, because that race, if the Grand National was ever threatened, Liverpool would defend it.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas
London
if
wouldn't.
the Derby is threatened, London leave the Derby to its own, and racing will have to hold it. But Liverpool would defend the National.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And actually, when we're there for ITV, as we all will be, you only have to look behind the social stable to realise just how much fun Liverpool have at.
But
at
it really does make it, and it's for a jockey as well. The difference in almost pressure build up from Cheltenham to Aintree it's a very different feeling. It's a different atmosphere.
But the mindset now for a jockey, because the fences have been modified, and actually it's interesting because what you're saying about it being Liverpool's race, I wonder whether it really matters whether they change the fences, they change the course. In terms of, for us as racing purists, I suppose, we love seeing those iconic images of a big Beecher's Brook and a huge chair and things like that. But actually, provided the connection is still there between the Grand National and the city of Liverpool, I'm probably shot down for asking this question, but does it really matter whether Beecher's Brook is 10 foot tall or 6 foot tall?
No, but I do feel, in some ways, I feel sad when you think of what the Grand National used to be, and the test that it presented to both horse and rider was very different to the one that's presented to them now.
Yeah.
You know, I think, but it's like smoking in pubs. 20 years ago, nobody blinked.
I remember going to Cyprus with my mum on holiday and they were smoking the plane.
I know, but like, and there's a smoking and a non-smoking section. Like, we're on the same plane.
Yeah.
But it's people's perceptions have changed and altered. And I think we as a sport, we have to evolve with that. Otherwise, we'll be left behind.
Yeah.
And I think,
But do you therefore think that the race is not what it used to be, but it has to be different because the general perception of what the old Grand National was isn't right?
Yeah, I think we have no choice, because I feel that if we want the race to continue, we have to appease the people who don't like the old test, or the risk element is reduced. And I think we almost have to give up a little bit of that so that we can actually carry on and continue with the race.
But I'd ask you, if I was playing devil's advocate, which I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What was wrong with the old race?
Well, no, I don't think anything, because I think that it presented a test that was one for the rider and the horse. And if they weren't at one, they paid the penalty and they ended up on the floor. Now, the problem that we have with that is that if we have too many horses falling, and then we have injuries on top of that, and then we have fatalities on top of the injuries, then people start to ask the question, is this too big a price to pay for this race? And that's where we have to come up with an answer. And if we don't have the answer, we're losing our social license.
I think the BHA and the Aintree, my view is that they have worked so hard over the last 10 years to almost control the controllables in terms of making it as safe a test while still being a test as possible. And there have been so many changes undertaken in the.
Well, it's got and it is, in some ways it's sad, because Beecher's was an iconic fence. And when you got to Beecher's, you basically had to say to yourself, have I got my big boy pants on? Because if I have, I can go down the inside. If I don't have my big boy pants on, I'm going wide. Because it was such a different fence.
Yeah.
To jump it on the outside, you felt them do that, and that was it. You jumped on the inside, you literally had to stand up like that and let them go. You see all those old pictures, and that's what made it. But, the problem you have then is that if a horse gets hurt or killed, then people say, oh, this is too big a...
When we've done openers on the opening show, for example, and they go down to Beecher's, you walk along and you have to check the marker by the fence to make sure it is Beecher's, rather than back in the day we go, well, this is obviously Beecher's.
Yeah, you knew what Beecher's was.
Yeah.
And if you didn't respect it, it caught you out.
Yeah.
And like I can remember falling on Fiddling the Facts, and she was cantering. And she just had a tendency to go a little bit left. And if you go to Beecher's is actually at an angle. If you jump Beecher's level, sort of absolutely square, you'll end up in the hedge the far side, because it's at an angle. You have to jump it a little bit sideways. Yeah. And she literally jumped and went left. And as she went left, of course, the ground goes away from you on the inside, and she just went phoom, like that. And that's what the difference was between gambling and going down the inside. Yes, you might get more room, but it's a much bigger risk.
Yeah, risk reward.
Yeah.
There's a feature, actually, ITV's coverage will be 3 days at Aintree, and because it's 30 years, there's going to be a great feature that the team have done on you, where you will speak in depth about the injury. So I don't want to go in too much about it. But we spoke about your love of the Grand National because it gave you that famous day when you won it, etc., and those great memories with Edie in '97. But do you almost resent it as well because it was the race that ultimately ended your career from an injury point of view?
No, I don't. Like every time I walk through those gates, all I can remember is winning the race, and they'll never be able to take that off me. But I'd be lying if I said I don't think about what happened when I had my fall. Like,
what did you break?
I broke C3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I also did my knee, both cruciates. And I was in a mess basically, but after the race. But it was more.
When that happens, are you in like, this might sound really stupid, I can't even comprehend how much pain I would be in if I broke 5 vertebrae of my back. Are you like on the ground going, I'm totally cooked?
Well, I have to admit, when I was on the ground first, I was paralyzed, and I couldn't feel anything. And like honestly, like I've never been afraid of anything, and like that moment I was afraid.
Because you thought you were paralyzed?
I thought it was like I could see this crumpled mass beside me, and it wasn't me, because it couldn't be me because I couldn't feel it, and it was like I was so scared. I had 2 young boys at the time, and all I'd ever wanted to do, like you've heard me talk about, all I ever wanted to do was ride. In that moment, I didn't think about riding. All I thought about was my 2 kids and being able to feel my legs. And I can remember being in the back of an ambulance, driving through Liverpool on my way to the hospital on a spinal board. And I don't know if anybody's ever been on a spinal board. I can tell you now, it is the most uncomfortable thing you've ever been on, because they have a strap across the top of your forehead, which pins you to the board, and it presses into the back of your head. And all I kept doing was trying to wriggle my toes all that time. I was laid flat on my back for 2 days because I had quite intensive surgery. And then they actually put a halo on me when they fixed me. And when they put a halo on you, it's extremely difficult to actually sit up, because the halo weighs whatever weight it is, but you have to rock yourself to actually get yourself to sit up. And I can still remember trying to do it that time, trying to get myself up, because all I wanted to do was to be able to stand and see if my legs worked. Like, you cannot comprehend how scared that moment, those couple of days were for me. Like, my wife was feeding Oscar, who was only like 5 months old at the time. She was coming up and down to Liverpool. I was in a mess mentally and physically. It was a horrible time.
So how many days after it did you feel your legs?
2.
So after the operation?
Yeah. So, but I could feel my legs after about a minute. I was paralyzed for a very short period of time, and they said it was because I'd had an impact on my spine that had basically put me into shock. But yeah, horrible. And it's funny, like, I have not sat on a horse since that fall.
Really?
Not a pleasure or anything, because basically I've got quite a lot of metalwork down both sides of my spine, which they basically said if I have another fall, it'll be catastrophic. So
it's terrifying, isn't it?
It's so incredible hearing you talk that vividly and that candidly about it. Because ever since I've known you, you've always been somebody. If ever there was a tough situation, you'd rely on Fitzy to give you advice.
Put you straight.
But to hear the vulnerability, and I imagine that's the hardest thing for a person like yourself who's grown up, tough.
Yeah.
You've had, as you say, you put your hand up and you go for it. Because at that point, are you thinking, I can't put my hand up, I won't be able to put my hand up for certain things now? The doubts about what you can and can't do for the rest of your life must have been
traumatic. Like, honestly, Rishi, just actually being normal was what I wanted at that time. and just being able to do normal things like a normal person was what I wanted. And you know, I was scared. Like I really admit it, I was scared. And you know, my wife has, you know, she's an amazing person. Like she had to put up with an awful lot at the time. Yeah.
That's not just injury related though, is it? As well, because I didn't know you. Rishi would have worked with you for a long time.
Yeah.
I obviously got to know you very well when we started at ITV and stuff, but it's almost like a double. There's like two parts to your life in a way. And you've referenced Zach and Oscar, your kids, a lot here. Did having kids, was that a switch that made you change as a human being as well? Because there was times when you were drinking. I've heard stories that you were heavy on the drink at times.
Yeah, but like I was probably, you know, I lived my life to the full when I was riding, and I used to take 6 weeks off in the summer, and basically, and I would go away for, you know, long periods of time and go and have fun, because I didn't have any responsibility for quite a few years.
Go on a bench, basically.
Yeah. So suddenly then you've got children, you've got a wife. I've now got 3 kids. I've got a responsibility. And it was amazing. Like I've changed so much. Like the person that I was when I was riding, I am a very different person now.
Was that easy to do?
Well, it was for me.
Like, are you always fighting it?
Yeah, a little, but at the time, like I say, I'm a very different person now. I'm more aware of other people now. Whereas when I was riding, it was just about me. The whole world revolved around me. And I don't know whether that's a sports person's thing or what, but I think that's what, in many ways, made me successful, is that all I ever thought about was me. I didn't care about anybody else. I didn't care if I upset somebody or if I took a ride off somebody else. That was never in my DNA. I was like, well, sorry about that, but I'm not really sorry.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the way I was. Whereas now I'm a very different person.
You probably see that interviewing Tiger Woods, who I know is in the news at the moment, but...
Oh, listen, I'm no Tiger Woods. But,
No.
And I'm not like...
Well, I don't know. To be fair,
No.
I've seen you go too.
No, but I know,
now.
but do you know what though? That's the thing. We spoke before we did this about jockeys and mentality, and like I look back at it now and I was deluded. I had so much self-belief that I just wanted a chance. You know, that's all I ever wanted. And I like, it was never my fault.
But where would you have been without that self-belief, Fitzy?
Well, I think to a degree you've got to have it, Rish. You've got to believe that you are the best for the job, and you want the opportunity to do it. And like I look at great jockeys that I've ridden with, and jockeys who had that, like somebody like Davy Russell.
Yeah.
Like you look at Davy Russell, his record on the big stage. Barry Geraghty, record on the big stage. I can stand that.
Can you be the best sportsman in your field, sportsman or woman in your field, without that, almost, as you say, deluded self-belief? I don't think you can.
I don't think I've ever encountered an elite sports person, man or woman, who doesn't have that, what you describe, you know.
Tunnel vision.
You don't care about anything else.
Really?
All you care about, I mean, you know.
Well, you've interviewed some of the greats.
I have, and I've been lucky enough to do that. And the similarity is, you get a sense from all of them that they all believe that they are capable of being the best. They might not always be believing that they're in that form, but if they get it all right, they think they're the best.
Yeah.
And that's across the board in anything. It's like Ronnie O'Sullivan. He might talk the talk about, you know, I'm not playing well and all that sort of stuff. But when he's on the table, you can see the way he carries himself, the confidence. He turns that switch on, and he, at that moment, thinks there's nobody that's going to come.
Yeah.
Occasionally you get a little glimpse of it talking to him. You know, I'd say Rory, Tiger, been lucky enough to interview them. Roger Federer, he was very relaxed in the way he exuded that confidence, but the confidence was there. You know, you're on centre court, it's his court.
Yeah.
Even what you watch,
he had that swag.
You watch the little bit of body language. I remember watching a match, Ronnie O'Sullivan in the World Championship, and I don't remember who he was playing. I think he was playing Ali Carter.
They hated each other.
Yeah, but they took a photo before the match, and it wasn't a shaking hands one. Ronnie actually put his arm around him, and I know it might have been, but I watched it, and I remember thinking to myself, Ronnie's put his arm around him, like saying, "It's all right, young man, you know, little fella.
When you lose, it'll be okay.
Yeah, this is me. I'll make you feel welcome here for a minute. It was that sort of like, this is me. This is my territory. You're on my racetrack. You're on my cricket pitch. You're on my golf course. I'm the king here.
Yeah.
I'm the queen of centre court. Whatever. That was how they exhibited that aura of confidence, and I see that. But it's that self-belief. I don't know what it's like. As you know, having watched me on the golf course, I don't know what that's like.
Humble under pressure, yeah, as do I. It's fascinating, and actually we work together a lot, and I see you, and we all spend a lot of time with you, and like, I don't want to be too soppy here, not that I'm embarrassed about being soppy, but like, as I say, I admired you watching racing growing up as a jockey, and I used to know AP McCoy, Mick Fitzgerald, the best jockeys, but irrespective of all that, hearing you talk about your kids and hearing you talk about your kids away from cameras and lights, there was that moment you alluded to with your dad when you said, we did it. Like, I don't know whether there's been specific moments with your kids, but I have no doubt that they will be immensely proud of the man that you are and the dad you are. And I think for all we're talking about your great achievements as a jockey, that, I don't know where you would rank it, but I think that's by far and away your greatest achievement, I would say.
Well, yeah, that's very kind. But look, all I want to do now, and all I ever wanted to do when I stopped riding, was be able to provide for my family. And as far as I'm concerned, my family means everything. Yeah. And that's all that matters. It's not about me riding winners, or it's not about me presenting the opening show and robbing Oli Bell of the opportunity to be the presenter.
You've robbed me on the golf course enough, mate, to be honest.
It's not about that. It's honestly, for me now, it's about me being providing the best that I can for my family. That's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, well, you're smashing it. I'm very, very proud to know you. I touched on it there, jockeys. For you, growing up, was it, not growing up, but
that
AP, 50, that era was unreal, right?
Lucky enough, it wasn't quite Frankham's generation.
No.
But I saw the tail end of it. But for me, it was Dunwoody.
Yeah. He set the standard, Rich.
Richard Dunwoody was the one, wasn't he?
Or just his
he set the
he
standard
did.
Because everybody had to raise their game to be anything like him. And like he was the form book inside out, very dedicated, hard as nails. And he was the benchmark. And even if you ask AP, like AP wanted to be Woody. And there was some great jockeys then, like Norman Williamson. He was a brilliant big race rider.
Yeah.
Graham McCourt, who was brilliant on the big day. Hewell Davis, Grand National winner on Last Suspect. Brilliant rider. Brad was as good as you could get. And like all those riders, but the Woody, he was the standard.
Yeah.
Because he was so good left hand, right hand, over an obstacle. He was the one we all wanted to be like.
And he is the one, I remember because there was one time on the BBC, there was Mick, Richard Dunwoody and Norman Williamson. We had you all at one time working together. The one jockey who was struggling most of all, or ex-jockey who was struggling most of all with having given up was Richard, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, big time, because I think whether he felt that he didn't go out quite on his terms or it didn't end the way he wanted it to end, which is a shame because Woody was such a high standard bearer that it's a shame he's not able to give back to the game because he had so much to give. Honestly, at that time, he was fields apart with everybody else. And we all wanted to be like him.
Maybe it's generational, but I don't think the conversations I have about great jockeys, Dunwoody gets mentioned anywhere near as much as he should.
Is it because he stepped away?
I think it is. I think people had almost forgotten about him. Yeah. But I would never want anybody...
But the jockeys don't.
No. I would never want anybody to forget about him because, like I say, he was the standard setter. And he was one. And him and I fell out in the end, which is it's a real shame because I looked up to him. He was somebody who he was really good. And if you asked him something, he would always help.
Have you patched it up or have you had an opportunity?
I haven't seen him that much, no.
That's a shame.
And it is a shame because he's a good lad and he's, like I say, a brilliant rider.
Hopefully he's watching this, knows how much he means to you.
Yeah.
Do you think, I saw a tweet actually, someone saying that when you watch old nationals back or old races back, you realise how good that crop of jockeys were compared to our era.
Yeah.
Or the current era, I should say. Do you think that was a golden era? Do you think we're slightly lacking in terms of strength in depth in the weighing room now? How would you
There's quite a few of the younger lads now who are coming through, like Sean Bourne is obviously setting pretty high standards numerically. He hasn't quite managed it on the big stage yet. Like, I'm sure he'd love a Cheltenham Festival winner. And once you get that first Cheltenham Festival winner, you want a bigger and better Cheltenham Festival winner. But that'll come for him if he has the backing from a yard that's going to provide him with those winners. Harry Cobden, he's got a bit of that mentality about him.
The old school mentality.
Yeah, he's a guy that believes that he's well able to do the job. And it's a bit like the JP thing. People are saying, oh, you know, how's he going to cope with the Irish part of it? Yeah. Don't you worry about him, he'll cope. When you see him and they start rubbing him, get upsides him, he'll be quite happy to just give them a little rub back, you know, and you need that about you.
Because that's the question I would ask is, which of the current crop of riders, be it in Ireland or UK, that you would put back into that generation of Dunwoody, Skew, yourself, Norman, and they'd be able to hold their own? How many do you think would be able to do that?
There wouldn't be that many, but like Harry Cobden would definitely
He'd be one.
He would definitely be one. And like you look at Sean Bourne would evolve himself to be able to compete. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. Like James Bourne is another one who's young, really, really coming. You know, he's a...
Does he have... Here's a question, because I think he's one of my favourite riders, James Bowen. Does he have the self-belief that he needs to be where his brother is, where Harry Cobden is? Because he's not far off them.
No. He's got plenty of self-belief.
Does he display it enough on horseback?
Yeah, I think he does. He's confident.
I'm a big fan of his, and
he's good.
You don't think I think he's, from the outside looking in, elevated this. I know he's had 2 Cheltenham Festival winners, but I think he's getting a bit of that.
I'm a big fan of James. I love the fact, you know, you look at his record. He's had, I think, going into Cheltenham or during Cheltenham, I had to look at the records, and he had the same number of winners over fences that he did over hurdles, which is a unique thing. Most jockeys have winners over hurdles, but he had the exact same number.
But I think as well, very often we get carried away a little bit by too much. But if you look at some riders like Barry Geraghty, you look at his record on the big stage, on the big day. There was nobody better than Barry. And like you talk about self-belief, there was a man, he had loads of it.
Yeah.
And Barry never rode a bad race because he had that belief.
Yeah.
And like he would ride plenty of bad races, like we all do. But it's like walk into the weighing room, change the colours, out you go again, brand new.
He rode Monty's Pass, didn't he, to win the Grand National? Did he only ride it once?
One winner. He had a pretty good record.
Was that Jimmy Mangans?
Yeah, and was it that year when You'll Never Walk Alone, he'd won on him at the festival? And he got off You'll Never Walk Alone, and Conor O'Dwyer rode You'll Never Walk Alone in the National, and Barry still rode Monty's Pass.
Surely You'll Never Walk Alone would have gone off about 2-1, being the Liverpool horse.
Well, you would have thought so, and having been a Cheltenham Festival winner.
Yeah.
But Barry, no. Wow. That's what Barry had, you know, that belief that I know the horse that I'm riding is the right one, and how right he was.
I might be being really thick, so please edit this out. Is Spillane Tower in the National?
Yes, he is.
Is he going to run in it?
I think he is.
Because that's for the same trainer as Monty's Pass, Jimmy Mangan. That'd be a cool story.
It would be a great story, actually, and he's got a chance too. I think it's quite an open race this year. A lot of horses in there with chances, and I think JP McManus seems to be mob-handed.
Yeah,
I have dread Paul Richard Hoyles and the commentators. There's going to be green and gold, but so many different caps in the race.
He'll just have to learn the caps.
Yeah, exactly. We say it like it's easy.
I know.
Do you enjoy the broadcasting stuff that you do now?
Yeah, I do. And it's a great team at ITV, and like Rishi and I have been very lucky in that we've
done the whole lot.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Channel 4, ITV,
yeah. But look, it's great, and I love my job. I love going to the big meetings and being able to talk about a sport that I love, and it's a privilege really, and I think I don't take it for granted.
Do we have a early fancy for the National? Have you got horses? Because again, going back to that point, it's become a better race in terms of the quality of horses coming into the race. Probably makes it slightly a harder puzzle to solve because you don't have really those roughies that you just go, that's got no chance. You can make a case actually for sort of 20 horses in the race.
I mean, Paul Tannen's still deciding whether to ride Iron Maximus or
Grange Clare West. Yeah.
And you think that's going to have a big impact on maybe who goes off favourite for the race?
At the moment, Iron Maximus is favourite, but I think Grange Clare West will go off favourite if Paul chooses him. And I think it'll be very hard for him to get off him, having won the Bobby Joe on him.
He should have won last year, shouldn't he? Didn't he make a really bad mistake?
He made a bad mistake last. Pitched on landing and then got going late. But yeah, like Iron Maximus, he made plenty of mistakes as well last year. And if he irons that out, he's a player. Jaguar, Hiroko.
If you were riding Jaguar, how would you go about taking down the national?
Probably close my eyes.
I mean, I think he can win it.
He's got so much talent, that horse.
He is
well weighted.
He's well weighted. He's well handicapped. He's the one horse in the top.
And Mark's riding him. Mark Walsh is going to ride him, isn't he?
Is that confirmed?
I think that's
the plan. Know.
Well, I think that's why Iron Maximus ride is still up for.
Right.
Because I think John Joe is riding Hiroko. Mark is riding Jaguar. Yeah. I think
I think if Jaguar jumps, he'll win.
That means Harry Cobden will probably ride Iron Maximus, won't he?
If Paul
Tannen ride Grange Clare West, Patrick on Nick.
Who's on Spillan's Tower?
Yeah, just a musical chair.
Johnny
who? Richie McLaren.
Right. So this.
Yeah.
I'm sure
we're playing jockeys, ain't we?
Yeah. But no.
So he's the horse you would ride. Or
do you know what? I'd be very tempted to take a punt on him. I think Grange Clare West would be the solid one.
Right.
I thought there was a lot to like about his performance last year. It stopped him dead with that mistake at the last. But Jaguar is the horse who he's well in, and I think if he the worry is he's very straight backed, and if he leaves his hind legs in the chair or Valentine's, that'll be the end of his race.
Have you had a Bennett?
No. But Jaguar's a horse that I've.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not the only person who's talking about racing.
Well, Spillan's Tower and Jerry Colomb are Grade 1 horses. Both of them are 33-1. Will Spillan's Tower stay?
Yeah.
He won a 3-mile novice Grade 1 at Punchestown.
And they say back in the day you needed a 2.5-mile horse.
Yeah. Those days are gone. It's a proper race now.
Yeah.
Gonna
be a hell of a race. Even though they've changed it, I still... I was asked a question in an interview the other day, do the jockeys still feel that, like, I heard stories of like Terry Biddlecombe back in the day in the weighing room having a whiskey with the jockeys beforehand. Like that obviously doesn't happen now. But you'd see jockeys having dinner in Liverpool the night before, having a probably water nowadays. The sport's a bit more professional than back then. But if you're a jockey, do you reckon you still have, even though the fences are a bit easier, it's probably not as nerve-wracking a race?
No, but it's still a butterfly job.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course your tummy's going because the magnitude of what you might be about to achieve.
What were some of the things that you might never have done had you not won the national? Because after you won the race, obviously you say all the media, you know, people wanted to talk to you, appearing on TV shows.
Yeah, Question of Sport.
I did Question of Sport, and I got flown up from Exeter to Manchester.
Who was on the Question of Sport?
Well, it was Ian Botham and Bill Beaumont.
Wow,
that's how long ago it was.
Wow.
Yeah. God, I can't remember who was on. I'm sure they'll find it somewhere, but. And that from me, and going to Sports Personality of the Year that year.
As a Grand National winner.
Oh my goodness. Because in those days, it was like the who's who of sport. And it was invite only. Yeah. And like some of the sports stars you saw. And then even when I won, I was leading rider at the festival, and I went in 2000, the sports star, BBC Sports Star of the Millennium. Yeah. And we saw Muhammad Ali walking across. Wow. He walked literally right by me. And it was amazing, like those sort of things. And that's what this sport can give you, you know, the opportunity to go places.
Was he, because he had Parkinson's, didn't he? Was he suffering at the time?
Yeah, he was a little bit shaky.
But did he still have...
Oh, like every...
He never lost his aura.
No, he didn't. Every pair of eyes in that room were on him when he walked. Everyone. And there's not many people can have that ability, but like he was just,
I recently was interviewing Barry Geraghty in Ireland about his time in the saddle, and he mentioned when he won on Monty's Pass and he went to Sports Personality the next year, and I was saying, I remember being at that Sports Personality, and I was telling everyone I've just bumped into Barry Geraghty. Barry Geraghty told the story that at that Sports Personality, he got the chance to meet George Best. And he said, you know, obviously George Best didn't know exactly who he was, but he got the chance because of how things were back then. And because he was a Grand National winner, he was taken and introduced to George Best, which was a moment, a magical moment for him.
Yeah.
And those were the sort of things that, you win a race like the National, you're propelled to a different thing.
But you're not just, and it's when you get introduced anywhere, doesn't matter where it is, you're always Grand National winning jockey. They don't say, oh, he's champion chase winning jockey, or he's a champion hurdle winning jockey. He's a Grand National winner. And everybody goes, oh yeah, I've heard of the Grand National.
Yeah. Amazing. So no bets yet. We'll go through next week on the paddock a bit more of a preview of the whole meeting, because actually there's 3 days of brilliant racing in Liverpool. The Thursday's loads of grade ones. Friday's Ladies' Day. I don't know whether tickets are still available, but if they are, and anyone's watching this, I urge people to go to Liverpool
on Ladies' Day.
On Ladies' Day, yeah. I mean, it's a proper party. They've got a nightclub. No, I say nightclub. They've got like beach bars up. They've got what's it called? Box Park have got an area. The Red Rum Lawn's sponsored, I think, by WKD, and it is honestly like Ibiza there. It's mad. Now, before we go, and slightly away from racing, but I know you love your golf, and it is the Masters soon as well. As I say, I watched that Rory McIlroy documentary. Have we had a bet in the Masters yet, lads?
I have.
Go on.
So I've actually backed Patrick Reed.
Really?
Yeah, at a big price.
Can we show the workings here?
Well, no. So
he's had a great DP World Tour.
He has. So he now has left Live, and he's on the DP World Tour. He's going to play his way back onto the PGA Tour. But he's got a great record at Augusta. He's from there. He's won the event, and he's in good form. And I think everything will be geared towards that for him. So I think at a big price.
What price was he?
He was 50 to 1.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a silly bet, and it's like you only have to have tenors on to collect. But yeah. And I just thought last year I nearly pulled off a big coup with Corey Connors.
Oh, wow.
I backed him to be leader after the first round. And Justin Rose, and Justin, and like I was literally collecting, and Justin Rose suddenly pipes in, didn't he? Last minute.
I have obviously I'd love to see Rory win it again. If he plays well. Slightly concerned that he had that injury, but if he does play well, he can't not be far away. But the two players that I will be backing, I haven't backed them yet. One's Koepka, who
he played shit the other day.
He's showing flashes.
He's playing better.
Yeah,
his putting is better.
His score was bad the other day. He was 6 over.
He's playing better.
Yeah.
His putting's better. And obviously, if you cast your minds back to the Masters a couple of years ago, he wasn't that far away from winning. He led, and then he just, I don't know what happened to him. Disappointed, because he's normally a person who's got quite a strong mental focus. And the other player who I think, again, Augusta's the one place that you want to see people who've played well there before go back to it. Hideki Matsuyama. He's played well enough through the season so far to make me think he'll play well. So those are the two that I'd have money on. You?
I'm going to go for a few left field. Chris Gotterup's had a good season. I think he'll go close. I can't have Scotty. I can't have Brooks. Someone like Patrick Reed, actually, you make a very good case for him. But I'm going to. They do this competition where you pick 5 players. Richard Farquhar does it in racing, but there's a few others, and I'm going to have a few. I mean, every year I do 20 teams, and I don't get anywhere near it.
I was in the rankings last year. I was in the top 10 for a bit.
Really?
Well, one of my teams was, and then I had a few teams that weren't in the top rankings. But one team, and then on the final day, it just
tailed off,
drained away.
But I promise you, there is. As a sports fan, and they used to say the Spring Double in racing was the Lincoln and the National, wasn't it? But because Masters weekend is over, Grand National weekend, I mean. We will all go to work, come home, get it on the laptop and watch the golf.
So I'm, say, reasonably pally with Lee Westwood. So in 2003, the Red Marauder won the National.
Three finishes.
So he was actually at home. He should have been playing in the Masters. I think he was world number 1 at the time. And his wife was pregnant. And they were ready to have their first child, so he didn't go to the Masters, and he was at home. And he said to me, "Oh, come on, I want to have a bet on the National. I need a few outsiders, and I need something at the top end." And I think it was Bow was near the top, so I said, "Oh, you've got to back Bow." And I said, "You know what? It's pissing down, so the ground's going to be really soft." I said, "Have a few quid on Red Marauder." I said, "He's 40 to 1. I said, but I'm telling you, it's got a chance. And lo and behold, it's
yeah, that's why you're
So
very
I'm not-
very
Friends for
patty now.
life.
Yeah.
When obviously when you're working at Augusta, you're not allowed to have your phones, or when you're on the course, you're not allowed to have your phones. But if you might be lucky enough to get a sticker if you're in the media, and you can have a device on you. So I used to have my phone with me because I had a sticker on. So when Lee Westwood would come off the course, he'd walk in, and the first thing he'd do is, especially if the clash with the Grand National, he'd be like, what are the results? I need to go through all the results. So I'd be waiting to interview him, but all he wanted to do was go through all the results. So he'd had a little tickle on something here, there, and the other.
Brilliant, amazing.
yeah, he's a great lad.
Well, if anyone's watching this, it is a great weekend of sport in a couple of weekends' time, because it is the dream for golf and racing fans. Racing in the afternoon, Masters, that is your weekend sorted. Fitzy, I've absolutely adored that chat. Thank you so much for coming in.
pleasure.
And
Thanks, Fitzy. That
opening
was
up to us.
very emotional.
I honestly got very emotional there.
Yeah,
It was
I don't.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Well, you're a man that keeps your emotions in such good check. You don't often give the game away. But it's nice to see that the heart's beating inside.
But there is a heart. Yeah,
It's beating strong. Thanks, Rish. Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, do what you need to do. Comment. Any questions for any of the team on the Paddock, do let us know in the comments below. And make sure you follow @the Paddock UK. That's it for this week.